okay. I guess the first question, and plus I also use this for my own background in the recording. As the bishop of the Springfield Diocese, what, you know, in your second trip to Quincy, I know, but in this Mass, what is it that you're hoping to? What message would you like to convey to the people who live in Quincy and in the Springfield Diocese?
Well, in my homily tonight at the Massive Welcome, I'm going to talk about the mission and the vision. And the mission is something that I inherited. There's a mission statement for the diocese that's on our diocesan website, but actually that comes from Christ himself. Jesus really set out the mission for the church. So we go back to the scriptures, to the Gospels, and what Christ is calling us to do. His mission was to send out his followers to go and spread his good news, to talk about the love and mercy of his Father. So that's something that's been with the church now for 2,000 years, and that doesn't change. The vision, though, I think can change, you know, and the vision is where we use some of our own creative imagination to talk about what we would like to see the church do. How do we put that mission into effect? So I'm going to talk about my vision for the Diocese of Springfield, and basically in a nutshell, I see a church that's thriving, that's vibrant, where Catholics are very committed and are going to church and practicing their faith, and lots of vocations are coming from this diocese, priests and nuns entering the community. In some ways I acknowledge that may sound very idealistic, but at the same time I think we have to have high goals and high standards, and the only thing that keeps that from us is our own human limitations and our sinfulness. So that requires prayer to try to achieve those goals with God's grace.
Well, let's talk about, you know, what, maybe not Springfield Diocese specific, but just Catholics in general. What do you see as maybe a big challenge we have?
Well, one of the big challenges I think for Catholics is just the sense of the importance of going to Mass every Sunday. It's as basic as that. You know, where to be a good Catholic, if you want to use that expression, is the sense that, well, we're supposed to go to church every Sunday, and that really comes from the Ten Commandments. You know, the third commandment is to honor the Sabbath, and for Catholics that means going to church. Well, that doesn't mean just going to church, you know, every few weeks or every few months or whenever we feel like it. It's a weekly obligation to honor the Lord. So if we were to do that, if Catholics were to be more committed even in their weekly attendance, our faith community and the things that we could do would be much stronger. I think the challenge beyond that would be also, we have a great challenge, again, not just Springfield, but the church in general in terms of vocations.
Absolutely, that's the next thing. I mean, you know, Quincy right now, we are in a transition again. You know, we've had our last two priests, of course, have had the privilege. They also serve the military, yes. And you know, Father Burnett now we're lucky to have Father Bergmeyer back for a little bit. What can be done on that end? Is it a recruitment thing? Is it? I mean, how do you, you know, when we're looking at, you know, if we had Father Bauer forever here at St. Peter, and then, you know, a relatively short time for the next two men that we had, how do we maybe, is there anything that we can do, or is there anything that the diocese can do to maybe look at bringing someone in who would say, yeah, you're going to be there for a while?
Well, I think in terms of how do we get vocations, I was just talking last week with the Bishop of Paterson, New Jersey, and he's been in Paterson for 8 years now, and he was telling me that in 8 years they've gone from 5 seminarians to 45. And so I asked him, well, how did you do that? Because I'd certainly like to be able to achieve that here. And he said, basically, prayer. You have to start with prayer as the first step, and then you talk about it a lot. So he said that he's been talking about vocations, and you get people that you have to get the message out there. So that's part of what I want to be doing. I'm, you know, in my visits to parishes, and when I come for confirmation, and wherever I'm going, I'm bringing my vocation director with me, Father Christopher House, and I want to give that message and keep talking about it. Last week we had our convocation of priests, and I spoke about vocations, and so I will definitely keep talking about it, and I think that's one way, just simply to raise awareness. We have 11 seminarians now. I don't see why we can't at least double that within a few years, get up to 25 or even 30 seminarians. I don't think that's impossible.
With the education system right now, public education, there's a lot of talk going on right now, but also with public education, with the numbers and trying to, you know, sustain a workable enrollment in the parochial schools. What can the church be to be more proactive in that?
Well, that's another real challenge. You know, Catholic schools are a very vital resource to our spreading the gospel and the mission. Years ago, we had many nuns, religious sisters, who taught in our schools, and basically did that as volunteers, and so the tuition was nominal. Today, we have lay teachers, and they're very fine teachers, but they don't take a vow of poverty, and so we do have to pay them a salary, and that means that the costs have gone up. So I think we need to find ways through scholarships, endowment funds, trying to get people, even if they don't have children in school, I think it's still an obligation of the whole community. After all, everybody pays taxes into the public school system, whether you have children in school or not. So I don't think that's something we can say, well, just the parents who have school children are the ones who have to pay the tuition. I think the rest of the church has to help to subsidize that cost.